I don't usually write reviews for movies of the previous year. Considering I watched more than 100 movies that were either interesting to me, were just available, whether I like it or not, will be till the end to decide, which is, whether I like it or hate it. There are many movies I did miss, though, including many movies that I didn't have the chance to see or didn't even interest me despite being available. But before knowing it would be nominated for, Best Picture, I like to catch up on good movies I missed all the way from the 1920s to 2019, making my very own must-watch list. But since 2020, thanks to, well, not thanks, but due to a situation where I had more free time than I would, I saw so much more new movies on release than I would about 56 movies in 2020, which is less than the twice the amount of films I saw in 2021. I think I said that right. Which was, about 123 movies. And that was just in its year of release. I did see more movies I missed, but those were movies during their release time or, of year of release. I saw when it came out. I wrote a review and then I move on to the next film. That's how it worked. I bring this up to make it clear, despite how many movies I see, there are plenty I miss. But most of the time I don't mind. I mean, I have a life to live. With the Oscars this year, I checked my list and saw only 4 movies out of 10 I saw by my own choice before knowing they were nominated for an Oscar, which were Dune, King Richard, Coda, and West Side Story, which was on my top 10 list. Other movies such as Drive My Car weren't playing near me, and movies like Don't Look Up, Licorice Pizza, and The Power of the Dog honestly just didn't interest me. Then Reality was a movie I wanted to see, but when the time came I had to make a choice to either go see that movie or The Kingsman. And while I don't regret seeing the latter, not specifically if it's a better movie, it's more about the theatrical experience, like, the action about it. But when I saw it at home earlier this year, I didn't mind skipping it last year, if that makes any sense. But then there was Belfast, a movie I didn't care averse to see. Ugh. Now it's my favorite movie of 2021. I forget if I saw the trailer at all. I just presumed it wouldn't be a must-watch, which in some ways I was kind of right. Not to say I should skip it, but needing to see it in theaters. I like to support movies being on the big screen. It helps in many ways that are hard to explain, but sometimes I don't mind watching movies on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and the other streaming services, depending on multiple factors that I really don't care to explain. Point being, I decided to finally watch this movie at home, and maybe the theatrical experience wasn't necessary, and while I'll explain why later, it was something I do regret skipping on last year. The movie is directed and written by Kenneth Branagh, a truly acclaimed director, writer, and actor that I wish to see more of his movies. Technically, the only movie I saw of him directed by him was Artemis Fowl, Thor, and Death on the Nile, which, are movies. I saw the opening sequences of Murder on the Orient Express and his take on Hamlet. The opening scenes of his take on Hamlet. I'm reading Hamlet for school right now. Moving on. Which I didn't have the chance to finish for different reasons. But I do hope, to see the rest of them later on. I do know Kenneth Branagh to be a masterclass director and actor for stage and film, and this movie proves to me why he will be remembered for years to come. The movie is something I look for in a movie. Simple yet complex, clever and subtle, well-paced, well-acted, a practically flawless movie. I'm sure a flawless movie doesn't exist, but because not everything appeals to everyone, to me a movie can be perfect to those who think it's perfect, to them. And this movie is honestly a perfect movie to me, or at least a flawless one in some sense. I will get into why right now, so with all that said, what's the movie about? Shot in black and white, the movie takes place in 1969 Belfast, during a huge turning point in this movie's main character, a wide-eyed young child named Buddy, played by Jude Hill, his life, from his viewpoint about how he views his life with his family, friends, and an ever-changing world. But he's just enjoying his stay when a religious riot occurs and nothing becomes the same for him and his family anymore. As time goes on, Buddy's childhood becomes completely different as he's trying to figure out the world he lives in, or at least the town he's known as much as he can when you live in it your whole life, having family, friends, and everything you can want there. But as times get harder, both due to financial reasons and moral reasons, Buddy's parents are at crossroads. His pa, played by Jamie Dorman, wants his family to move out of Belfast, where he works overseas, while his mom, played by Caitríona Balfe, wants their family to stay in Belfast, since, as I said, they have everything they could want there. But through Buddy's eyes, we see how he faces his home he's known his whole life change, and what he's going to have to learn from his parents, his pa, played by Ciarán Hinds, and Granny, played by Judi Dench. Good, I know how to pronounce that name. Anyways, he learns about life itself, from love, religion, wrong from right, all what would probably make Kenneth Branagh become the person he probably is today. If it wasn't obvious, the movie is definitely inspired by Kenneth Branagh's own childhood, which is done in a way where not even knowing who Kenneth Branagh is, I could tell this is practically from how a child would remember his youth. The movie opens with the colorful present of today before heading to the past in black and white. Not like it's foreshadowing the present, but just to show it's the past. Not just because it's, black and white. It's because it shows how it's some way a memory within itself while it is the character's present, if that makes any sense. The movie does a good job showing how Buddy is practically in every scene. I can't remember if there was a scene he wasn't in where he'd be in focus or in the background, but it shows how he might remember these conversations and what he makes out of it, similar to the audience learning of it for the first time, just like a little kid. There were many large shots showing Buddy just in a conversation where he's given a life lesson, rather it be with his pops helping him with math or just hearing his parents argue, but in a way where it feels like it's how a kid would remember it, but not exaggerating it, since the dialogue and the characters feel incredibly realistic. Buddy, his brother Will, played by Louis McAskey, I have no idea if I pronounced his name right, his cousin Moira, played by Laura McDonald, his childhood crush Catherine, played by Olive Tennant. The audience will learn their names, but the other family members are, their names are just credited as their family roles. But it makes sense, since this is Buddy's viewpoint of his family, if that makes any sense as well. I don't really know how to elaborate. What I can elaborate on is what his family clearly means to Buddy. Buddy's mom is a hard worker, takes care of him at home while Father overseas isn't around as much, but he loves his family to the fullest and knows how to be a good father and husband. Buddy's grandparents have more experience, but they know how to be there for their grandchildren, as Buddy wants to be there for them concerning their situations. I love many scenes where he's just talking to his family, where they find the right balance between being something relatable to everyone, yet specifically to the main character's own life. I usually don't like characters who are just a blank slate. Not to say it's not what he is a complex person, but it's because he's a blank slate. But he's at an age where he's trying to learn the world when he doesn't really understand it, and the adults or anyone older than him try to put their viewpoints into the kid's mind. And while he's not open to everything, he wants to know right from wrong thanks to the fear of what might happen if he's doing wrong. But he has many great scenes that clearly help define his childhood, more than life lessons, like what he does for fun, watching Star Trek at home, or Western films late at night, going to the theaters to see movies which are in color compared to his black and white world, which could be interpreted in many ways, and two ways I see is that it brings color to his colorless world, but it's clear this is his escape to a world he would love to be a part of. Like, he goes to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which if you never saw the movie, such as, just knowing it's about a flying car and seeing it and being amazed about the imagination and creativity leaping off the screen, clearly amazing the child. It says a lot without saying anything at all. In fact, he goes see A Christmas Carol on stage, which the actors in the play are in color too, showing how, while he does stuff like read a Thor comic, Thor, or play with Matchbox cars like any other kid, this was his world. It's not like he sees this movie and says afterwards he wants to be a filmmaker. He's a young child. He's not really thinking about his future. He's thinking about his present, how he just wants to be, good. He wants to do good, but isn't always shown the right way to do so. He actually participates in a looting, which he doesn't want to do at first, but thinks afterwards because, this is what others are doing. He thinks that is the reason this makes it right, but his family makes it clear it's not, showing his family loving and caring for him. The movie doesn't really focus on one thing necessarily, which I read somewhere some people didn't like, but it's clear it's a series of events that help define Buddy, or even kind of broad that can impact any child, while still making me remember this is Buddy's story. One thing that doesn't really have a huge impact on the story is his older brother Will. Like, I guess you could cut him, nothing changed, but he's a part of the family, not the story. This is Buddy's story, how he sees the world around him, his loving parents who both want what's best for him, his grandparents he loves with all his heart, him stalking his crush, his age, not where it's not a thing he should do because, he's a child. He doesn't know better, and that's what makes this story spectacular. There are many shots that make this is how Buddy sees things, like him standing on top of something, which I won't say for plot reasons, but just how a child might see it. How a kid coming of age would see it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I can say I relate to everything that happened to Buddy to me, but this isn't about being relatable to everything. This movie, to me, is about showing how just growing up and what the world around you will impact you, growing up. This being Buddy's story, and clearing Kenneth Branagh's own childhood, I don't know how much of it has changed or not, I don't care. Regardless, the movie is masterfully directed, written, filmed, acted, and so much more. Simple yet complex, simple but realistic, harsh but poignant. A movie I don't think I'd change anything about if I had a chance. Maybe it'd be one of or two things if I think about it, but as is, I have no problems with it. I have no nitpicks. The movie is gorgeous, loving, enjoyable, deep, sad, happy, something that makes me want to make a movie like it, and inspire me just in general. I'm so glad I decided to finally watch it. I wish I did see it last year, since this is now my favorite film of 2021. And maybe my favorite film of the decade so far. By default, I guess. It's not going to be for everyone. Heck, it's definitely unpredictable or new, but it does everything right for me. And for me, that's all I care about. It's a practically flawless film for me. I give Belfast a 10 out of 10. And that's why it's going to win Best Picture tonight. Unless it's not, because of when I'm uploading this is immediately proven wrong in this estate. In which case, if it's not, if it does actually win though, I called it!